Hello and welcome to another episode of Words with Myself. I believe that all of us, if not all of us, then a large majority of people are creative. And it may be that you haven't found your creative outlet yet, but we are all inherently creative. Whatever that be, you might be creative with numbers or business, you might be creative with art, or you might be creative in your sport, but we all have this creative element within us that we use to express ourselves in order to say, this is me, this is what I can do, this is the kind of things that I want to create or the kind of things that I'm interested in. But I also recognize that not everyone has a creative outlet. Some people have the creative mind or the creative capacity, but that doesn't mean that they are putting it to use or channeling it in a way that is really efficient. For instance, I've always been very artistic, but I've never been particularly good with things like paintbrushes or pencils. And what I found was that I didn't like the lack of accuracy. That was what existed in my head. I couldn't make it on the paper. And I got really frustrated with that. Like, I couldn't get what I wanted, my vision, and manifest it and bring it to life. And I was also very impatient. So when I wasn't good at it instantly, it kind of put me off it. It made me think that that just wasn't for me. And if I'd have, probably put dedicated practice to it and spent a significant amount of time learning, then maybe I would get into that state where I can portray things accurately, the way that I want to envision it and the way I want to bring it onto the paper. But what I found was that writing, I was able to do this instantly. So I kind of jumped at this and I was able to put what was going on in my head, the worlds that I could create and the stories that I could create, and make them tangible and describe what was going on in my head, because I couldn't draw it. So I had to learn how to explain it and explain it in a way that was also interesting to other people. And, as I went on, this kind of skill developed and I got better and better at writing, as I had to write many different kinds of mediums as well. There was professional writing and business writing and creative novel kind of writing. They're all very different, but they all helped me to hone this skill. But what tends to happen is that the areas in which we can be creative and that we can monetize, we often do. If we can make a job out of being creative, or the way that we are creative is through our work, we end up actually losing the creative aspect from this. Most times when we make our artistic outlet also our form of revenue, we end up having this external pressure. What was once something we could do freely and without limitations or requirements, we could just express ourselves in the most truest form. But we have then taken this and we then put it through a channel in which we can receive money for it. And because we receive money for it, often that means that there are certain things that you must do in order to be profitable. There are things and ways that you must compromise your creative vision and your artistic ability in order to actually be able to profit from it, in order to turn it into some form of tangible business. For instance, a singer or a band that makes music, they may at the start have been producing music that they just felt at the time. They just thought, you know what, we're going to come up with something completely original and we're going to play whatever we feel like playing. But then they build a fan base, and that fan base expects certain things of these artists. They expect their music to stay with what interests them. And we see this a lot of the time, that, people will say, oh, that band's terrible now, or they've lost touch, or they're just no good, I'm not interested in them anymore. And often that's because they chose to choose a different artistic vision. And of course, when your revenue is on the line, when you need to upkeep your lifestyle and feed your family and all this kind of thing, unless you are truly back in a position where money is no object and you can basically retire to live creatively. Otherwise, you're trapped in a state of needing to fulfill the demand and the supply. It doesn't matter so much how you feel or what you want to create. It actually matters then about creating something that other people value, in which case it's not your art anymore. It's not something for you, and it's not an expression of you, but instead it's this watered down, condensed and filtered version that you believe will appease others. And on top of that, when we become professionals, there's almost this expectation to not make mistakes. And to not make mistakes means to not experiment, to stick with what you know and what you perform. And it's a bit different for something like a painter, because they may not necessarily be dictated as to what they must paint. They just might paint freely and then wait for someone to buy it if they're interested. But for instance, somebody like a writer, somebody who would then go for writing job in a magazine article, you end up being very limited by, for instance, political language, what you can and can't say, the opinions you cannot and can express, or the feelings you may have on a certain subject. You are expected to produce what the corporation wants you to produce. And there can't be mistakes or experimentation or coming up with something fresh and new and exciting. It's like films in Hollywood and books as well. They will only publish things that they know are safe bets. That's why when you see movies or you read books and it just seems like the same storyline over and over again, and it's because publishing houses don't want to take a risk on something that's outside the box or something a bit different. They want something that they know will sell. So all of a sudden, your creativity is now limited to the confines of getting it in front of people or being marketable, or even nowadays how many Instagram followers you have or something like that. There are so many things that we have to do in order to maintain our creative outlet as an occupation that it almost renders the creativity redundant. It almost strips the creative outlet of its creativity and ends up being something other than that. If you do not have freedom, if you do not have the ability to experiment, make mistakes, go on different journeys and try out different things, and truly just give yourself free rein to be collective, to let your mind go wild and enter all of these different realms in order to produce something that is truly unique to you and authentic and amazing, you need to be able to tap into that and not feel like you must do something which is restricted by some external limits, like your audience or the kind of things that sell the most or the kind of things that get the best reactions or the best likes on Instagram. Like, none of that is important. And the second that you start using those metrics to govern your creativity, you end up almost stripping it of the thing that you love about it, the very reason why you do it. That almost gets lost in that process. And because of that, this way in which you love to express yourself then becomes something that seems more like a chore. So you're in the same spot as all the other people that don't have a creative outlet, because your creative outlet is no longer a creative outlet. It becomes work. It becomes your job. And if you can't still do your job in the way that you want to do it, or if you can't express your creativity in the way that you need to do it, then you need to either make time to additionally be able to spend time on that outlet in a non-professional capacity, which may be difficult because you might be burnt out or not feel like doing it, something that you do all day, every day for work. You might not feel like taking it up as a hobby as well, in which case you probably need to find a different creative outlet or a way of expressing yourself that is not limited, because we all need that. We all need something that allows us to process ourselves, to experience ourselves, to explore what we think and how we feel and the visions that we have in our head, how we make that something real, how we turn our ideas into something tangible, something that is a true expression of ourselves. And if you haven't found that, or if you feel like you've lost it, then you need to experiment. You need to play around and really go out there and see what kind of artistic expression you can have, because there is so many ways to express yourself. There's so many ways to be artistic and create, rather than being someone who sits there and consumes what other people create. become the creator yourself. Decide to manifest as much of you as possible. Things that mean something to you and are important to you, that truly allow you and afford you the freedom to make what you want to make, to think what you want to think, to paint what you want to paint, or write what you want to write. Whatever it is, just that complete unfettered freedom to create whatever you want. Once you tap into that, you begin to unfold all of the different layers of yourself. And you can see beautiful things that you had never seen before, ways that you felt that you never knew that you felt before, things that were important to you that you had no idea, memories that you have, things that had a profound impact on you, as well as the things that were traumatic to you. It allows you to express that and get it out, because otherwise everything is sitting inside and we can feel really heavy. It allows us to unburden ourselves and gives us a place where we are truly free to be ourselves. You don't have to create something for someone. You don't have to create something in order to sell it. You can just create for you, and in whatever way you feel connected to do that. And if you don't know, then get out there. Try everything. Try painting and sculpting and writing and dancing and sports. Whatever it is, go and try it. Thank you for listening.